All right, let's get right into it. The titles here might sound a little bold, but stick with me, because it's meant to completely flip the script on a feeling so many of us have, that dread that creeps in on a Sunday night, the resistance you feel to the whole 9-to-5 routine. We're going to unpack why that feeling might not be a weakness at all.
I mean, does this hit home for you? It's not just being tired, right? It's a real physical sensation, like a weight on your chest the second you think about the workday ahead. It's that feeling of being stuck, of just watching the clock, and man, it can be absolutely draining.
And this is the core idea right here. If you're feeling that way, it is not a character flaw. It's got nothing to do with being undisciplined or not having ambition. Think of it more like a signal, a blinking red light, telling you that the way you're working is just not in sync with how your brain is actually wired to thrive.
So if it isn't laziness, then what in the world is it? Well, before we can answer that, we have to talk about this huge idea that's been drilled into us. The laziness myth. It's that story we tell ourselves, that if you don't fit neatly into the box, then you must be the problem. Let's start taking that myth apart.
And this is the question that just bounces around in your head, isn't it? You look over at your coworkers, and they seem fine, they seem content, and you start to think, what is wrong with me? Why can't I just be happy with a good, stable job like a normal person? It's a really lonely and frustrating place to be.
This really breaks it down. On one side, you have the myth. You tell yourself you're lazy or ungrateful or that you just lack discipline. But the reality, the psychological reality, is that you're actually understimulated. Your fundamental needs just aren't being met, and you're starving for a completely different kind of challenge. So you see, the issue isn't a lack of effort. It's a total mismatch of environment.
Okay, so how do we actually get past this myth? We do it by reframing the whole struggle. We're going to give it a new name, a new diagnosis, if you will. Instead of beating ourselves up, we can use a couple of really helpful psychological ideas to see things clearly.
So concept number one is something called occupational misalignment. And the best way to think about it is this. You'd never call a fish a failure because it can't climb a tree, right? The fish isn't broken, it's just in the wrong environment. It's the exact same thing here. If your core need is creative freedom, but your job is just repetitive data entry, you are occupationally misaligned. The problem isn't you, it's the fish.
And that leads us straight to this next one, effort, reward, and balance. And this is so important. The word reward here does not just mean your paycheck. We're talking about the deep stuff, the rewards that actually fuel smart, creative people. Things like having some control over your work, actually seeing the impact you're making, learning new things. When you pour all your energy into a job and the only thing you get back is money, you feel this imbalance in your bones.
So if you're feeling this misalignment and this imbalance, what does that actually say about your mind? Well, this is where we stop looking at the problem and start understanding the unique kind of intelligence that's actually causing it.
And this right here is the big pivot. That restlessness, that frustration you feel, it's not a bug, it's a feature. It's actually a byproduct of a mind that is built for something different, something more. It's a signpost, and it's pointing directly at your greatest strengths.
And here they are, the core traits. First, you have a high need for autonomy. You don't just prefer freedom, you need it to function at your best. Micromanagement is like your kryptonite. Second, you run on an intrinsic motivation system. You're fired up by curiosity, by purpose, by the challenge itself, not so much by external rewards like a bonus or a pat on the back. And third, you're what's called a multi-potentialite. This means you have deep interests in lots of different, sometimes totally unrelated things. And the idea of just picking one to do forever, it feels like a cage.
This is a fantastic way to picture it. Most companies want a T-shaped person. Someone who knows a little about a lot of things, but has deep expertise in just one thing. But you likely have an M-shaped mind. You've gone deep in multiple areas, and because of that, you can connect ideas and see patterns that nobody else can. This is the very engine of innovation, but it has a really tough time squeezing into a single, narrow job description.
So, if the traditional career path is a bad fit for this type of mind, what's the alternative? This brings us to a whole new way of thinking about work, one that actually plays to these strengths instead of trying to suppress them.
Just let that phrase sink in. The fragile cage of extreme job specialization. It's fragile because if that one thing you specialize in suddenly becomes irrelevant, you're in real trouble. And it's a cage because it stops your M-shaped mind from doing what it does best. Your gut feeling to resist it? That's actually a survival instinct kicking in.
So let's compare these two models. On the left, you have job specialization. It's like your entire career is built on a single tall pillar. It might feel strong, but if that one pillar cracks, the whole thing comes crashing down. Now look at the right. The portfolio income model is built on multiple pillars. It's about developing several of your deep interests into different projects or streams of income. Not only is this way more stable, it's a perfect fit for a multi-potentialite who thrives on learning and variety.
And that brings us to this final question. I really want you to think about this. What if all that frustration, all that friction you felt with the 9-to-5, what if it wasn't a sign that you were broken and needed to try harder to fit in? What if, all along, it was a compass? Your own internal guidance system, patiently pointing you toward a way of working and living that is more authentic, more resilient, and a much, much better fit for your brilliant M-shaped mind.